The Miami Dolphins. Talk about just depression of a football team. I mean, they had so much hope years ago, but nothing came of it. Why? Because Chris Greer was not a competent NFL general manager. He focused on the splashy big time moves and neglected the meat and potatoes. But that era is no longer in Miami anymore. There's a new era in Miami, and it's brought to you by the Green Bay Packers. As you can see with their draft, as you can see with how they maneuvered their team, they're very much focused on the meat and potatoes, and they're very much focused on this reset. And they are limited because they have so much dead cap. But that makes them a fascinating team, as we're going to see a lot of young guys start major games for the Dolphins over the next 2 seasons. And today, I get to preview the first set of those guys in the 2026 season. So let's jump into it. The Miami Dolphins made a lot of moves in free agency. By made, they traded away Jalen Waddle, they cut Tyreek Hill, they lost Bradley Chubb, which I think is addition by subtraction. They lost Julian Hill, Cole Strange, their punter even went. Alec Ingold, their fullback, left. They lost a lot of guys, but that was very, very much needed, as I'm sure many Dolphins fans will tell you. But they did sign someone. And he's the guy I really want to highlight because, yes, does losing Jalen Waddle suck? Yeah, he's a very talented wide receiver, but you got a first-round pick for him. And Tyreek Hill, you're pretty much doomed to cut that contract because no one would take it. But Malik Willis, there's some hope, there's some optimism here that maybe you have your franchise quarterback before you really start this rebuild. I know that's insane to say, but with what we saw from Malik Willis last year, coming from the Packers, where the two guys who are running this team come from, you got to think they're very bought into him as a player. He has good movement ability. He can get out of the pocket. He can run for those big time gains. He has shown progression as a player in the pocket. He was once really, really bad, but has grown into that role more and more. You've seen him go under center more and more. He's developed as a player compared to what the guy we saw in Tennessee was his rookie year where he looked out for lunch. Malik Willis has developed. Is he there yet? I don't know. I hope he is because he's a fun story to really watch and keep track of because whenever he played for the Packers, their offense looked good and they won football games. And that's a big thing that Dolphins fans want. They want a quarterback that can win. And Malik Willis looks to have a lot of the pedigree you want in a franchise-building quarterback. He's got good arm, he's got good movement ability, and he's got that just defining it factor that sometimes he can just pull a rabbit out of his hat, which we've seen him do for the Packers the past couple seasons. So I'm curious to see how this develops. I'm curious to see how he really comes into his own as the full-time starting quarterback of a team. And it's not like he has a lot of talent around him. So if he looks good this year, he is the option moving forward long term. The Miami Dolphins drafted a lot of guys. And I mean it, because when I went to go over this before the video and I was prepping, putting down everything in my notes, I went, okay, they drafted him, they drafted him, they drafted him, they drafted him. And it just kept on going over and over again, and I was just laughing. By the point I got to Kevin Coleman Jr., I was on the floor laughing out loud because they just used so many picks, which is smart. They have a massive dead cap. They need a lot of young guys on this team to really fill out the roster, and also, you're rebuilding. You want young guys on your roster. So let's look at a lot of these guys, and I want to talk about a couple last because I really like them more than others. But to start out, I'm not the biggest fan of their first pick. Caden Proctor. If you didn't listen to me on this channel during the draft process, I was substantially lower than him than practically everyone because I don't think he has it in him to be an NFL offensive lineman. I don't think he has got that mentality. When you watch him play, he can be passive at times, and I also don't think he's that technical at all. Now, the Dolphins aren't trying to win, so him not being technical and you need to develop him, that's not the end of the world. But my concern is I don't know if it's ever going to be in there. And that's a big thing when I look at a player. If I don't see the projection, and I understand he is hyped up, he's athletic, he's traitsy, but I've seen a million of these guys get picked because they're athletic and traitsy and fail because they weren't technically sound. And especially at the offense line position, you need technically sound. So this pick never really worked for me. Jacob Rodriguez, another guy I was just lower on than everyone else. I feel like he really feasted because that interior defensive line and that line in general at Texas Tech was so dominant, it allowed him to do a lot. I have a feeling we're going to see a lot more limitations this year when he's in Miami because he's not going to have that line to really bully up front, to really bully their way into him making play after play after play. When you see linebackers have the type of season he's had, it's either they're very special talent or they're a product of defensive line play in front of him. And considering all the talent Tech had on that defensive line that got drafted this past draft alone, I lean towards the line being more talented than Rodriguez. Not saying Rodriguez will be a bad player or anything. I just don't think he's going to have these star expectations I've seen a lot of people label him as. He might be a fine, good player that has a long-term stability in the league at a position that you really can have long-term stability and be a fine player and be in the league for a good while starting. I just don't see him being that impact player that a lot of people have hopes for. Looking at Caleb Douglas, another Texas Tech guy, I will say this. He is really, really good in contested catch situations. But that being said, I wonder if he was overdrafted where he was picked at, because it seemed like when he was drafted, everyone had the same thought of, already? And a lot of people, apparently, when you watch them who cover the draft, didn't watch a lot of his film. I was fortunate to have, because I watched him at Florida and I watched him at Texas Tech because I was very intrigued. And I watched a lot of his film over the past year, getting ready for the draft, and I really loved him in contested catch situations. I think he can win those at a high rate, and that's something very crucial when you look at Malik Willis, who maybe isn't the most accurate quarterback in the world. A contested catch specialist is very versatile. But outside of that, I really don't know how much versatility he has in his game to really develop as a player. It'll be curious to see how he really molds into the NFL. Maybe the Dolphins see more in him than we do right now. It wouldn't honestly shock me because he is talented, but right now I kind of just view him as that contested catch specialist. Will Kamarick, a tight end from Ohio State, which you really cannot go wrong. He is old school type tight end throwback. He will be on the field to run block. He is a run blocker through and through. I don't expect him to have much pass game whatsoever because that's not his specialty. He is a run blocker. You want him on the field as your third tight end or second tight end. You want him on those sets to open up lanes for Devon Achane. You really want to focus on that instead of really going all over the place and be like, okay, hey, you need to run this seam route. Go seam, seam, seam so we can hit you in that. That's not his strength. And if you try to play him that way, it's not going to work. But the Dolphins probably know that. Again, these guys come from the Packers. They have a big emphasis on blocking. You need to be able to block to play for the Packers. And I have to assume that was brought in when drafting for the Dolphins this year, that they want their tight ends to be able to block. Chris Bell, this is one of my favorite picks, and I just want to talk about him real quick just because he would have gone so much higher if it wasn't for a torn ACL. During the season, he was my dark horse guy to go round one. I thought he was tremendous. And he just can create separation. He can go downfield. He's got good route running. I would describe him as slightly less good A.J. Brown coming out. And I'm not saying like A.J. Brown now. No. If he was just slightly less good A.J. Brown now, he should have been the first wide receiver taken. But I mean, coming out of college, where I saw A.J. Brown, I really, really loved him as a player. He was a big route runner, had some good speed, could create separation. That's what I see with Chris Bell, but he's just not as good as him. I think Bell can develop into a number one wide receiver, though, in time, and will get the opportunities because Miami doesn't have a whole lot. Trey Moore from Texas, a fine linebacker. He had some good production, started 46 games. That's very good. I really didn't see a whole lot of him to really give a big-time opinion. To me, when I watched him, I ended up watching more Colin Simmons, and I couldn't really come to a big determining factor about Trey Moore. He just seemed solid to me when I watched him. Kyle Lewis, now he's listed as a linebacker. I would love him at the safety position because I think he's too small to be a linebacker. But he's got good coverage ability. He's willing to come down and tackle. I feel like you move him to kind of like that hybrid nickel role. Like, he could be Nick Emmanuel in that type role, and I would really like to see the Dolphins utilize him in that route. Michael Taffy, again, I didn't watch a whole lot of him. I thought he was solid from when I did. Kevin Coleman Jr. Missouri took a massive step back on offense this past year, but he wasn't a big issue as to why. He was a very good, solid slot receiver, and he has a defined role. Something you can very much notice with a lot of these picks is there is a defined role for these players. They're not just drafting guys to mold them balls of clay. Maybe with Caden Proctor, yes, but Kevin Coleman, that is not that is a very defined role. Chris Bell, I think, is a very defined role of outside receiver. Will Karkamak, that's a very defined role as a third tight end. Caleb Douglas is a contested catch specialist. And Chris Johnson, who I'm yet to get to, is a boundary corner on the outside who is just awesome. Seydou Traore, didn't watch a lot of. DJ Campbell, I was very underwhelmed with his film, 100%. I was surprised he got drafted. And Max Llewellyn, I did not watch at all. But to come back, because I wanted to save him for the last, was Chris Johnson, the cornerback from San Diego State. Now, I don't know if Chris Johnson will ever become that elite tier corner, but I think he's going to be a very good high-end starter corner that's just a nasty guy to play against. You watch him on the outside, he's physical, he's mean. He's almost a throwback to the Legion of Boom style of play, if that makes sense, of how handsy he is. He'll fight you, he'll make your life miserable. And I kind of love that when I watched him play. I really think he is going to be given a lot of opportunity in Miami, and because he is very talented and he has that defined role as that boundary pest corner that's going to make the receiver's life miserable. Jeff Hafley, I just don't know about as a head coach yet. And I know we don't know a lot about these first-time NFL head coaches. We saw him work in college, and he was a pretty solid college head coach, if you ask me, considering he was at Boston College and put guys in the league pretty often. But I just don't know about him in the NFL because at moments you looked at the Packers on third down last year. It felt like teams knew how to attack them. But also, to be fair, the Packers secondary wasn't all that great last year, and they lost Micah Parsons during the season, which is a major loss. So it's really hard for me to figure out what Jeff Hafley exactly is going to be this year. Is he going to be someone that's just going to scheme up a lot of stuff and going to really get players to buy in like he did at Boston College? Or is he maybe in over his head and he's better designed to be a college head coach, or he's better designed to be a defensive coordinator in the NFL? I just don't know of Jeff Hafley yet, so I really don't feel comfortable giving a determining factor. To me, it could go either way. He could be the long-term guy that Miami's been searching for forever, or he could be out of the job within the next time the Dolphins are anywhere close to competitive. Now looking at the Dolphins for season predictions, and yeah, they're not going to win a lot of football games this year, and that's okay. The big theme that for me is with the Dolphins is you want to see the young guys develop, but also you really want to see with what Malik Willis has. Because as I mentioned earlier in this video, Malik Willis has the potential to be that long-term answer for the Dolphins, and he's signed at a very reasonable rate right now. And that's a big key when you look at all the things going for the Dolphins' way. Malik Willis hitting and then being able to use all the rest of your draft picks to really flesh out this roster would be the best possible case scenario for the Dolphins. But if it doesn't work out, they're going to be picking high. This team's not going to win a lot of football games, and that's fine. This team is probably going to suck. And the real interesting thing is, and I've been debating about this with people all offseason long, who's going to finish last in the AFC East, the Dolphins or the Jets? I lean Jets right now, but it could easily be the Dolphins. And considering both those teams want to finish with a very high pick, that's going to be a very interesting battle to watch throughout the entire season. I'd like to say thank you very much for watching this video. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. And if you'd share this, I greatly appreciate it. I'm doing 32 in 32 days. 32 consecutive team previews in 32 consecutive days. Today is the Miami Dolphins. Tomorrow is the Minnesota Vikings. Yesterday was the Los Angeles Rams. And I just looking so forward to see everyone's reaction to these. And if you have any opinions on the Dolphins, go comment down below. Give me your thoughts. Give me your opinions. I love reading every single comment, and I will read your comment if you do comment. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope y'all have an amazing day.